Um, Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Harald Gjermundrod, and as mentioned, I do work at the University of Nicosia here in Cyprus. And I would like to do a short introduction to one of our projects that we're working on, which is Honey CY, which then refers to as active defense. Just a quick outline. First, what is actually active defense? What is this notion? Then we'll look into the honeypot, which is then active deception, and finally, just a high level about what this framework is all about. So, cyber warfare, I think, is actually now our daily life, and even NATO has now actually declared that cyber warfare is one of their operational domains, just like land, air, and sea, meaning that it can trigger Article 5. One country launch an attack in cyberspace against another country, then NATO can now respond according to Article 5. This is between countries. Unfortunately, also for companies, the cyberspace is getting more and more aggressive. I think many of the other speakers mentioned this. And unfortunately, it looks like the bad guys are semi-winning, or at least have the upper hand at the moment. They are more organized, better funded, more successful, defensive, maybe struggling a little bit to try and keep up with the bad guys. Okay, but this hopefully will change. So for one point, if you want to defend yourself, is to try and think outside the box, which also a few of the vendors had also mentioned. They tried to move on to not just have the border. So a big part of the defense is actually to build a huge wall around the company. However, you then need to open some doors. You need to hopefully withstand the big attacks. However, you do need to let somebody in. So how do you check who is coming in? Okay, so you do actually need to have doors in your wall. So actually just building a humongous wall will not work because you need to have some openings there. Okay. This is then the idea of active defense, okay? And actually there's a very nice paper that kind of summarizes the principle of this, because it's quite often misinterpreted. What do we mean by active defense? It is not hacking back, okay? This is not what we're doing. We are not becoming hackers. However, it's similar to when you talk about active and passive air defense. We have our radars, we're seeing what is going on within our airspace. This is passive. However, as soon as an airplane enters illegally into our airspace, inside our territory, or inside our operating theaters, the things that we own, or into our companies, then we have the right, let's say, to launch our active response. We may shoot down the plane. However, we must make sure that if you shoot down the plane, it does not land in a third-party country, okay? If we have to somehow stop an attack, we must do it within our boundaries. So in a sense, active defense is actually direct action taken against specific threats that have now entered into our domain. And then the passive defense focuses more on making your cyber assets more resilient against attack. Okay. There's gray areas in this one, in the sense that, I think this was from Georgia, the company noticed they're being attacked, they found out where the hacker is located, and actually he was stealing files. So they found out where the directory where he was stealing files for, they uploaded a virus into this directory. The hacker, of course, stole the file. This was now a virus in there. He launched it, and of course, then he triggered the camera, and they even got a photo of the hacker. In a sense, the company did not hack him back. I am allowed to put viruses in my hard disk. You happened to steal it from me. You were stupid enough to even launch it, and now you actually exposed yourself to me. I did not hack you back, however, it was active defense. I allow you to steal something, or I notice you're doing it, I allow you to steal something, and I can now learn something about you, okay? So, what is this deception apart? So in order to catch a criminal, you need to think like a criminal, okay? So this is the idea with the honeypots. It's one of the ways to do active deception. So we need to actually learn to speak like the hacker. So in the Star Trek world, we need to learn Klingon, okay? So we want to study the attackers, we want to profile them, and we also want to profile the attacks, okay? To learn what are they up to, what are the new things they're up to, okay? So in that sense, a honeypot, we actually set the trap and learn the attackers in order to study them. So compared to all the other companies here, they don't want to be attacked. We actually want to be attacked, okay? So we put up some systems, and the attackers believe this is a great target for me to try and get into. However, when they get into a little let's say, glass house there, and they bring their little toolbox with them in, and then we can study them and see how they try to crack our safes, what they're up to, the tools they bring in. Maybe we can even look at their tools, steal their tools, or actually see what they're up to. So we want to actually observe them. So this is the whole idea of honeypot. Now, for this one, there's no clear definitions. There's various ways to compare them. There's a taxonomy of them, okay. But from our point of view, a honeypot is a security resource whose value lies basically in probe. The attackers being probed, attacked, and being compromised, okay. So our goal, or a honeypot's goal, is actually to be exploited, okay. Now, there are different types, the passive ones, or low interactive, higher active. Some are just simulating services. They're not really production systems running. So they may connect to a port. I'll just, yes, I actually believe I am MySQL, but really nothing running. Now we have the high interactive one where actually you do run real services. And the tricky part there is that if the attackers are very good, they may actually be able to bypass your glasshouse, okay? So there are some risk in running these ideas. But the idea is actually being attacked, see what they're up to, learn from them, analyze the system, and then gain knowledge, and hopefully be able to, if you're an academia, try and share it with as many as you can, and then try and learn the nature of the attackers and try and stop when they try to go against your real assets, okay? So this is the idea. Now, what is this honey CY that we're working on at the University of Nicosia? So there are quite a few open source honeypots. Many are from academia, meaning they were built by some graduate students to serve their need for their master or PhD, meaning it's not very well documented, not very well maintained. The code are there, you can download it. However, it's a little bit tricky to get them running. Documentation are not great. Sometimes they're outdated, so maybe they report, yes, I'm MySQL, but I'm the server that is 5 years old. Well, like, this is too old. What is this thing running? So they will just ignore the system, okay? So what we kept in mind then for this one was, well, why don't we find quite a few complementary open source honeypots, try and combine them together, and update them a little bit. So if there's a report newer versions of the software that's more relevant, okay? And then package them together and make an easier deployable packet. Originally, there was some images for Raspberry Pis, but then we prepare some droplets. So basically, it's a ready-made packet with various honeypots that are ready for you to push play and get them running, okay? So you do not need to go through all the hassle of trying to find or configuring or setting them up. Sorry. It froze. It's down. I can continue as they try to get this thing. So we try to package together various honeypots and make it easier to deploy. So in that sense, we have a 3-tier architecture. We have the sensors that are ready-made and droplets or images for Raspberry Pis that you can easily deploy in the cloud or within your infrastructure if you want to. In the backend, then, we have servers that goes around and connect to these sensors, gather what have they been collected, and we run this one every half an hour. This can be configured. So we collect what have each of our honeypots been sensing for the last hour. Then we run an automatic analysis. If we manage to get some malware, see, does it exist? Already known, then it's not really interested, we log it. However, if we find new files we have not seen before, we then have a backend infrastructure with some virtual machines and sandboxing. We can now analyze and try. This is our weakest point. Have done too much work because this is quite difficult work, but at least we do collect the evidence that we managed to grab. And we have then a management console that allows you to start and stop the honeypots, view the logs, and so on. Okay. Is there a way to run without the slideshow? Can start on slide 12. Yep. Sorry about that. I don't know, maybe there was, okay. I'll continue out the slide. So we have our infrastructure, and the idea is then we have deploying this one. We run it for, usually we have different runs, so once 24 hours is making sure does it work, the things we have configured. And then we had one we run for a year to see what can we collect over a whole year. Okay. So in the 24-hour, and also for the whole year, in general, we get attacked once every 15 minutes. Okay, somebody tried to breach into us. Okay, and then we log it, and then we see what can we learn from it. What we realized with the honeypots that we do wrap, that gives you log files, all the information is collected. However, from this one, it's like you're searching for needles in haystack. You get all those attacks, most of them are not really interesting. They ping you, do a scan sweep. What you want to see, you want to try and find patterns from this. So in that sense, one of our students then started working, well, how can I actually now try and profile the attackers? So we came up with a little nice GUI applications we kind of developed a little query language. So from the logs, we need to parse them, and we built a database, okay? So we store all our partial diverse logs from the different honeypots, and we put it in a database so we can now start querying it. And what we want to try and look at for, well, the easier queries, from which city are they, what time, what attacks are they doing, and what malware, and so on. And then we can try and find out, from which city are logging, attacking the most, at what time, what specific attacks. However, it's easy to fake the IP you're coming from. So some other more profile find more interesting is that, can we try and find out if the attacker is employed by a nation state, or by a bad organization, or the hacktivist, or the script kiddings. So in that sense, we try to profile, well, did the attack take place on specific public holidays in the US, or China, or India? So if you see the attacks from a specific country, do they happen between 8 and 4 p.m. within that time zone? Do they happen on public holidays? Do they happen Monday through Friday or in the weekend? So you can now try and profile the attackers. Are these attackers employed somewhere? Or are these somebody working in the evenings? Do they work during the day? So we made this little nice GUI, but there's a couple of screenshots if the slides are available afterwards, where we then try to find out, are the attackers indeed employed, or are they working on their own? And do they actually employ where they have, let's say, holidays and not holidays, and so on. So this is to wrap up. What we're trying to do is learn and profile our attackers and attacks, and we build combined various honeypots, update them a little bit, and made a nice GUI to try and find out and learn from them. So if you want some more information, I think there's an email address, so you can email us, and this is open source. If you want it, we can give it to you also. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much.